My name is Keith Harper. I am studying Geography Information Systems under Dr. Ernenwein at East Tennessee State University. My final mapping project for spring semester 2023 is a necrogeographic suitability and targeting study of Upland South Cemeteries in northeastern Tennessee. So, what is an Upland South Cemetery? According to Dr. Gregory Jean, who was a professor at Auburn University in the 1970s, the Upland South Cemetery is a distinctive type of rural American graveyard. Upland South cemeteries are distinguished from other cemeteries by their adherence to several attributes. A cemetery can be considered within the Upland South category if it is located on a hilltop or a slope, it has an eastward orientation, it contains particular vegetation such as eastern red cedars, which are also known as the cemetery tree. It is of a small size, its graves are of scraped earth or earth mounding procedures, it contains grave houses, and it uses vernacular decorative ornamentation such as shells placed on gravestones. I used geographical data sets to help analyze the first three of these attributes. Further work needs to be completed to define small size, and the final three attributes would require in situ site visits. Dr. Jean's research, which was published in the Journal of Popular Culture in 1978, included a map of known Upland South cemeteries. The photograph on the right is a zoomed-in image of northeastern Tennessee. If you look closely, you will notice on this map that there are no Upland South cemeteries listed for Washington, Sullivan, Unicoi, Carter, or Johnson counties. I am skeptical that there are no Upland South cemeteries in these counties. I intend to use GIS as a tool to help prove the existence of Upland South cemeteries in our part of Tennessee. The purpose of my project is twofold. First, I wish to locate areas conducive to the potential future development of Upland South cemeteries within northeastern Tennessee. The mapping of these suitable locations is beneficial to communities and family groups wishing to continue the tradition of Upland South cemeteries. Second, I wish to prove the existence of Upland South cemeteries within the 5-county region of Upper Northeast Tennessee. There are 808 cemeteries within this region. Visiting all of those cemeteries would be exhausting and time-consuming. However, by using GIS, I hope to narrow down the number of cemeteries I need to visit in order to find this particular category of cemetery within this region. It must be noted that although I do have a data set of counties that contain Upland South cemeteries, I do not have an authoritative data set for the locations of individual Upland South cemeteries. My map is to be used as a tool to help me and other researchers explore cemeteries that can be considered as Upland South cemeteries. Using the workflow we learned within Esri's EWC courses, I used a 5-step method to answer my two questions. The workflow steps are: number 1, ask the questions, which I proposed earlier. Number 2, find authoritative and editable data sets that make sense. Some of my data sets were uneditable, necessitating feature class to feature class conversion within ArcGIS. Step 3. Examine and interpret. In this step, I made sure the data was showing what I needed it to show, and that its attribute tables were complete for my needs. Step 4. Make decisions. Slope aspect is a subjective variable. It is up to me to determine how to define an eastward orientation. I chose an aspect between 62.5 degrees and 112.5 degrees. You might easily argue I should have selected a broader angle. However, this is part of my decision-making process for this map, and I can easily adjust that aspect range at a later time. Another decision I made was for proper projection. Since Tennessee is a long east-west oriented state, I chose Lambert conformal conic as my projection choice. Step 5. Act and share results. After making this map, I can actively visit these cemeteries to determine if any of them are truly of the Upland South variety. I will also share my map with other cemetery researchers. My data sources included TDOT, TNGIS Clearinghouse, USGS, USGNIS, the National Map, and Data Basin. I also used Dr. Jean's publication and manually transcribed his list of counties where cemeteries can be found and those areas where they are not known. I began my modeling with a large data set of 145,000 cemeteries. As you can see in the top photo, this data set completely blots out the eastern half of the United States. I also used vegetation coverage of the eastern red cedar tree, also known scientifically as Juniperus virginiana and known colloquially as I began my modeling with a large data set of 145,000 cemeteries. As you can see in the top photo, this data set completely blots out the eastern half of the United States. I also used vegetation coverage of the eastern red cedar tree, known scientifically as Juniperus virginiana and known colloquially as the cemetery tree. I was hoping for a higher resolution data set, but honestly, it just showed 100% complete coverage in green. Because it was total coverage, I indicated this by using hasher marks around the perimeter of my final map, which you will see later in this presentation. Let's look at two maps which show the prevalence of total cemeteries in the Upland South Zone versus the total number of cemeteries in the non-Upland South Zone of northeastern Tennessee. Neither of these maps show Upland South cemeteries, but they do give an indication that if there are Upland South cemeteries in the left-hand map, then we should find examples of Upland South cemeteries also in the right-hand map. The map on the left shows a 19-county region where Upland South cemeteries are known to be located. Within this region, there are 2,242 cemeteries. The lighter-colored counties have as few as 34 cemeteries, while the darker-colored counties have as many as 204 cemeteries. The right-hand map shows the counties in Upper Northeastern Tennessee, which are indicated on Dr. Jean's map as being devoid of cemeteries of the Upland South variety. In this region, there are 808 cemeteries, none of which are considered to be Upland South cemeteries according to Dr. Jean's research. This map is the product of my final project. It can be used as a tool to answer two questions. First, the areas in red are locations that meet 3 of Dr. Jean's criteria. For future Upland South cemeteries, these areas are suitable for further investigation. Secondly, each green dot represents an existing cemetery which might be of the Upland South variety. When zoomed in, we can see that each individual cemetery is on a slope. The slope is eastward facing, and the cemetery is in an area that contains climate and soil conditions suitable for the growth of cemetery trees. This project is to be used as a tool in 2 key areas. The suitability zones will help communities and family groups who wish to follow the traditions of developing Upland South cemeteries. The targeting function of this map is designed to help researchers locate Upland South cemeteries in the 5-county area, which shows as a void on Dr. Jean's map. Instead of visiting 808 cemeteries, researchers will have to visit only 103 cemeteries, thereby greatly reducing the legwork and drive time when conducting our research. Thank you for listening to my presentation. My name is Keith Harper, and this is my final project studying under Dr. Ernenwein for GEOS 3500 at East Tennessee State University.